I'll read you a little something. Some of you might have heard this before, but as I read it, I want you to just consider what the heart and mind are trying to do for this person as they tumble through their day. I decide to water my garden. As I turn on the hose, I look over at my car and decide it needs washing. As I start toward the garage, I notice mail on the table that I collected from the mailbox earlier. I decide to go through the mail before I wash the car. I lay my car keys on the table, put the junk mail in the recycle bin under the table, and notice that it is full. So I decide to put the bills back on the table and take out the recycling first. But then I think since I'm going to be near the mailbox when I take out the recycling anyway, I might as well pay the bills first. I take my checkbook off the table and see that there's only one check left. My extra checks are in my desk in the study, so I go inside the house to my desk where I find the can of Coke I've been drinking. I'm going to look for my checks, but first I need to push the Coke aside so that I don't accidentally knock it over. The Coke is getting warm, and I decide to put it in the fridge to keep it cold. As I head toward the kitchen with the Coke, a vase of flowers on the worktop catches my eye. They need water. I put the Coke on the worktop and discover my reading glasses that I've been searching for all morning. I decide I better put them back on my desk, but first I'm going to water the flowers. I set the glasses back down on the worktop, fill a container with water, and suddenly spot the TV remote control. Someone left it on the kitchen table. I realize that tonight when we watch TV, I'll be looking for the remote control, but I won't remember that it's on the kitchen table. So I decide to put it back in the front room where it belongs, but first I'll water the flowers. I pour some water in the flowers, but quite a bit spills on the floor. So I set the remote control back on the table, get some towels, and wipe up the spill. Then I head down the hall trying to remember what I was planning to do. At the end of the day, the car isn't washed, the bills aren't paid, there's a warm can of Coke sitting on the worktop, the flowers don't have enough water, there is still only one check in my checkbook, I can't find the remote control, I can't find my glasses, and I don't remember what I did with the car keys. Then when I try to figure out why nothing got done today, I'm really baffled because I know I was busy all day, and I'm really tired. I realize this is a serious problem, and I'll try to get some help for it, but first I'll check my email. So we probably all can relate to that on some level. But it's the mind. You know, it's what the mind does. It's jumping all around. It's trying to serve us. It's trying to get things done and organize things and give us comfort and make sure everything is okay going into the future. It's really on our side, although sometimes it does act like an over-caffeinated squirrel. Just jump, 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 run, run, run. So, over the years of teaching, certain things have become clearer over time. And I think all teachers have this. We kind of start wanting to emphasize a certain aspect of the body of whatever we're trying to teach. And I think maybe the most important clarity that's coming through for me over these last few years really is about this spiritual practice and the others that I'm familiar with. They're really about relationship. It sounds a little strange because we often just sit by ourselves. You know, that's what people think of when they think of meditators. They just sit there in the quiet, etc. But in that quiet, we're cultivating a more loving relationship with ourselves. And that internal relationship is important, just as our external relationships are very important. And here at IMCC, you often will hear the term bridging separation. We talk about it a lot as teachers. And what does that mean? We can feel a separation internally. We can feel fragmented. We can feel sometimes even at war with ourselves. And in an extreme case, there's a kind of self-loathing that can develop. And so this practice is about this internal relationship, bridging that felt separation, bringing some harmony, peace, compassion, and care into that relationship. And it's at the same time, we're looking at bridging separation that we feel in the world, or that we feel with others that might be different from us. This group, or that political persuasion, or that one. You know, we're feeling separation here, there, everywhere, whether it's race, or gender, or disability, or wherever we're feeling it. Part of a spiritual practice is trying to find ways to bridge that separation. Because it's really an illusion. None of us are separate. All of us are interdependent, related together. None of us would be here if it wasn't for all of the connections, various connections that we've had to all the people that have cared for us, grown our food, provided everything for us. No one stands alone. You know, it's a whole nother talk when we talk about this not self. Western or Eastern philosophy, that, what is the self? Is there a self? Well, I think what the Buddha was getting at, we are interdependent. There's no such thing as a separate, self-existing entity. That's for another night. One way we could also look at this practice is really we're looking at stopping the war, internally and by extension, externally. Any internal war that we're having interferes with our potential, our creativity, our capacity to love, our capacity to see clearly, solve problems. And externally, it's the cultivation of forgiveness, love, compassion, empathy. Just connecting, moving more in harmony and with our environment also. Look at what we've, look at where we've gotten to with our environment. Feeling somehow separate from the system that sustains us all. And there was was it yesterday? Or maybe it was today they released the latest of the environmental kind of mega papers where they had hundreds of the world's best scientists working on different aspects of examining the environment, kind of the state of the world. So we know intellectually what's going on. We know intellectually what needs to be done. We have the resources to do it, and it doesn't happen. So where's the hang-up with that? And it would seem that it's this disconnected feeling that the environment or other people are different and separate from us. And if we don't get over that hump, our species and the biosphere is in some big trouble. Now, all of these kind of us versus them is part of our survival instincts. And we've been very, very successful. In those survival instincts that have us accumulating more so that we can live, so that we can have greater comfort, etc., etc. But we may be at the end of the string on this. If we continue just with this kind of disconnected self-aggrandizement and self-collection, it's not going to work so much. There's 7 billion of us. And so when we practice in meditation, or anybody is doing a contemplative practice, as we begin to heal the internal war within us, and heal the felt separation between us and the environment, us and others, that may be the only chance we have. So in a sense, the spiritual practice is pushing evolution. So far, everything seems to be driven by survival instincts. And these are very prominent in all of us. And so there have been over time developed these practices and other systems that kind of push that along a little bit. That maybe it's cooperation, not, competition is the way to do this. So the Buddha, during his teaching career, he looked at this and he identified 5 energetic groups in broad sense and said, look, if you want to be happy and if you want to live a life that feels fulfilled and at peace, you've got to come to grips with these different energies that we all feel as humans. And in fact, as a species, if we don't come to grips with them, we'll be running out of time. And so I want to talk about these energies. Over the last 5 months, I've taught 5 residential retreats, and I've highlighted these energies in each of those retreats. So the 5 areas that the Buddha identified, they're also commonly called the hindrances. I like to call them challenging energies. There's wanting, the desire to have more or something different. There's the not wanting or aversion, which also includes fear, hatred, guilt, shame, kind of an aversive group. There's restlessness and worry. There's sleepiness, classically it's called sloth and torpor. It's kind of a malaise. And then there's doubt. Doubting your own capacity, doubting the body of teachings. So these energies are energies that we all feel. It's natural to feel them. They're all connected to our desire for survival, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And we've all got to find our relationship with them and navigate them. And we have to do it also together as a species. So in the Pali language, which is a language spoken in northern India around the time of the Buddha, they're called Nivarana. And in the Pali Canon, which are all the discourses of the Buddha that were written down hundreds of years after it was an oral tradition moved forward, they're mentioned quite frequently. So Nivarana, in the literal translation, is that they are coverings, or that which hinders clear seeing. So those 5 categories that I broke out for you, the Buddha speaks of them in these few lines. And he's talking about the mind. He says, "This mind, O monks, is luminous, but it is covered by adventitious visitors. The uninstructed worldling does not understand this as it really is. Therefore, for her, there is no mental development." He says, "This mind, O monks, is luminous, but it is free from adventitious visitors. The instructed noble disciple understands this as it really is. Therefore, for her, there is mental development." Now, in that simple passage, the mental development refers to the cultivation of the heart and the mind. It's not just intellectual capacity. It's the ability to gather the forces of the heart, mind, the mental development. It's the ability to gather the forces of the heart, mind together to see more clearly in just the way that nature works, so that we can act more wisely in our life. And part of that is to cultivate a relationship with creation, with everything in creation. That is a relationship of compassion, understanding, and love. You know, that to understand our place in nature, to viscerally start to get it, that's what a spiritual practice is about. That connectedness, and to feel it over and over again. And it becomes not just an intellectual idea. And in that phrase, in those few phrases, it says, the mind is luminous. The deep mind, by its very nature, it's not dark, murky, turbulent, dull. It's luminous. It has a brightness to it. It's filled with a shining, open, non-conceptual awareness. It's tranquil. The natural mind has this knowing quality. Awareness just, it knows. And it has the capacity to hold everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. To hold it with equanimity. But as the Buddha said, this natural mind, this natural luminous mind that we all have, sometimes gets covered over with these visitors. But it's important to remember that these are just visitors, that the natural beauty of the mind is always with us. But sometimes we're fearful. Sometimes we're worried about something. Sometimes we're wanting something so badly, we're just, that whole luminosity and beauty of the heart-mind is covered over. But they are just visitors, these kind of energies that move in and out. They're like the weather, but they're not who we are. If you think of it as they're just weather systems that come through, and sometimes they're light weather systems, like a little drizzle or fog, etc. Other times it could be tsunamis or earthquakes or, some very powerful stuff. So the question, why aren't humans just having this kind of luminous, loving presence all the time? If that's what's really underneath it all. And we can touch into that naturally at times, different times in our lives. We just feel that. The heart is open. We're seeing clearly. But often covered over. So the case that I want to make tonight is that those energies that cover over this luminescence, and I've hinted at it originally, is the organism loving itself. That those visitors covering us, the wanting or the aversion or the worry or the doubt or the sleepiness, is in some way our organism trying to protect us, bring us comfort, and keep us alive forever. I'm not saying those energies are wise and that they don't lead to trouble, but I think at their very heart, they're trying to help us. And sure, those energies, from a wisdom perspective, are misguided, and if we follow them, they'll wreck our life. And we can see the results of following these energies in the world, the external war, and the trouble we have with the environment, etc., and we can also see it internally. But if you hold these energies of wanting, lust, anger, fear, restlessness, worry, doubt, etc., if we hold them as some kind of enemy that must be defeated and rooted out and pushed out of our consciousness, we're just setting ourselves up for more internal strife. They're not the enemy. They are energies that want to serve us slightly misguided, and we know better. We know the answer to happiness is not desperately thrashing for everything we want and every new shiny material object. We know that doesn't make us happy. And we know we end up with too much stuff. And too much stuff uses up all the resources, and on and on. So let's try to get a feel for these 5 categories, and I'll also show how each of these challenging energies or hindrances, how they really try to serve us and help us. I can remember on some early retreats that I've had, and occasionally still now, where I think that all of these energies are up and present at the same time. I could be sitting and meditating somewhere on a retreat, and I'll be wanting food that's different, or I'll be wanting the sports page, which I don't have because it's a silent retreat and I'm not hooked up technologically. And so there's wanting mind, and then somebody next to me might be sniffling or making noise or zipping their jacket up and down, so I'm getting angry at the same time, so I'm wanting and I'm angry. And then I'm kind of restless, and at the same time I'm kind of foggy. And then I start doubting the whole practice. Look, what is this stuff? I can't do this. This is ridiculous. The mind is crazy. Other people can do it, but not me. So it is possible to actually have all these energies present at the same time. But they're all really workable. They're not, they're just visitors. And part of the key is just noticing what's going on when it's going on. If you can become awake to, this is what wanting feels like. Maybe you see some person who you think is your ideal person, partner, whatever, etc. And it's like, if you can bring your awareness back to yourself, you can discover, this is raw wanting. This is what it feels like. Or the new computer that you look at, that you see, it's just come out. You have a perfectly good one, or iPhone 10 or whatever it is that you've got to have. If we withdraw from the object and just feel the wanting, we can learn a lot. It's just an energy. So when we're mindful of what's going on, we have a qualitatively different relationship to what's going on. We're just not carried along by our survival instincts or these energies. And so it's interesting. This meditation practice that we do, if you get a little traction, each of these 5 energies, the wanting, the not wanting, the restlessness, the worry, the doubt, the sleepiness, all of these get attended to through our simple meditation practice. And in looking at what concentration is, or what makes it up, or samadhi, which is a better term, there's 5 elements to it. And the first element is called vitakka, and that's connecting with our object of meditation. When I hit this bell, when you hear that bell, that's your attention is on that object. If I tell you to just for a moment, feel the aliveness in yourself, just 5 seconds. Okay. We're connecting. We're aiming and connecting the mind, and that's called vitakka. And that's the first aspect of samadhi, or a deeper concentration. And in that moment, sleepiness is gone. When we connect with our object, If there was sleepiness, it's not there then. We're hearing, or we're feeling the aliveness. Now, sleepiness, most of us are underslept. That's just what we do in America. Everybody runs around underslept and a little over-caffeinated generally. And we all have different energetic biorhythms. Some of us are more awake in the evening, some in the morning. And there's a more interesting type of sleepiness called sinking mind. That's when there's pretty good steadiness of mind, but there isn't enough energy to connect with very much. It's like there's a brownout. You know, there's energy, but it's not enough. And of course, chronic sleepiness in meditation could be, if we're getting enough sleep, it could be a life out of balance in some way. Or it could be our organism in some way does not want to feel something that it needs to feel. Some undigested or unexamined emotion. This sloth and torpor, another way to look at it is not being alive to what's happening right now. Or it could be like waiting for life to begin. And many folks are stimulation junkies. Our culture is such that, gosh, 80% of the movies that are produced are just explosions and car chases. You know, they've discovered there's some threshold of stimulation that they have to get over or people don't pay attention. So it's no wonder that when people first start trying to meditate, they fall asleep. You know, so we're learning as we meditate to pay more attention to the more subtle experiences of living. It's not all explosions and car chases. And so the second element of samadhi is called vichara. And that's the sustaining of the contact. That's the paying attention to the reverberation of the sound. And so in meditation, we're trying to sustain our connection with whatever the object is, the breath or the sound or whatever, long enough so that we learn something about it, become intimate with it, really can feel into it, the subtleties of it. And when we're sustaining that connection for a little while, it counteracts doubt. Because when we're paying attention to something, whatever our chosen object is, there's no opportunity for like confusion or uncertainty to cloud the mind. We're just paying attention to the breath, or we're just paying attention to the sound. We're not into doubting. I mean, doubt can creep in, but it can only creep in when that attention wavers off the object. So doubt is the most insidious of all these energies because it's so logical. It oftentimes is so logical. And skillful doubt is part of discernment. I mean, it's an aspect of wisdom. I mean, what kind of life would it be if we believed everything that we heard? You know, we'd be, you know, it's hard to imagine. It's sad, but, you know, that's just not going to work out. So a kind of skeptical doubt is an important part of wisdom. But when it kind of overtakes us, when we're trying to cultivate our heart and our mind and our spiritual practice, and it can paralyze us. And it can defeat us in a way if we don't find a way to work with it, don't understand it. There's a story. A nun came to the abbess complaining that doubt was her primary challenge on the Buddhist path. She had doubt about the path itself, about the teachings, about the teachers, and most importantly about her own ability to succeed in the Buddhist practice. Your problem, said the abbess, is that you don't doubt enough. If you're going to go to the trouble of doubting, then continue your doubting, but do it more thoroughly. Please also doubt your doubt. We often pull up short and just believe it. All of a sudden we stop doubting and we believe our doubts. So if we just keep going and say, well, is that really true? Is that totally true? That I'm incapable, or whatever our doubt is? So the third element's a really fun element of samadhi, and it's called piti. And that means, the translation is joy or rapture. So when your mind gets concentrated for a little while, and many of you who've been practicing for a while have had these moments, there are pleasant sensations that arise in the body, and they can be very powerful. In fact, they can anesthetize the whole body, such that whatever ills, pains you have, you don't feel. And when there is piti, when that kind of pleasure and joy has arisen, there's no room for hate, guilt, fear, shame, any of that. No, there's no aversion. There's just a pleasant sensations, physical sensations in the body, and the mind is filled with happiness. So that's as we start to get a little traction in concentration. And closely related to piti is sukha, the fourth element of a samadhi or a concentrated mind. Now, some of you know anyway, I named my dog Sukha. She is the most loving and chilled out, pleasant being I've ever met. Steve's here, he can attest to her. So when sukha has arisen, your thinking kind of settles down. You'll notice there's no obsessive planning or agitation in the mind anymore. There's no restlessness or worry. That other category gets kind of, at least temporarily, relaxed out. Sukha, there's a feeling of okayness that comes up, is one way to look at it. As you settle more deeply, the heart and mind become more content. You're just delighted in the present experience. It's all just magical, and it's very simple and ordinary, but it becomes magical. And so then as the heart and mind become even more settled, more unified in a way we could say, you start to experience the fifth element of samadhi, which is ekaggata, which is the unification of the mind. And that really is the antidote to desire. Because in that state, the mind is so unified, you don't want anything. There's a focused intensity, a one-pointedness. You don't experience a need or a want for anything. There's nothing lacking. No sense of deficiency. Desire is absent. Kaput. So ekaggata is also synonymous with equanimity. There's a real balance. And so you could say you move from the sweetness of sukha, that lovely contentedness, into this cool equanimity, this ekaggata. So, the basic tools of meditation soothe all these energies that the Buddha spoke about. All these energies that are kind of haunting our species. So we are, together, kind of pushing the envelope of evolution. Yes, we have all this survival stuff going on. But there are ways to kind of cool it, and we need to cool it if we're going to get along, if we're going to really connect with our environment and each other and keep this all going for all the other creatures in our biosphere. So we have various ways to work with these energies. The one we talk about often here, we use the acronym RAIN, R-A-I-N. First, if we can recognize what energy is up, oh, this is aversion, feeling anger or something like that. That's the key kind of entry point. What is going on right now? I'm feeling this energy. All right? And what I want to add in is that when we recognize, to add in the piece that we understand where this is coming from. The supportive intent of that energy. Simply noticing, oh, okay, now fear is here right now. Feeling this fear. We can receive this with a kind of softening. Recognizing what I'm starting to call limbic love. The kind of primitive mind that's trying to protect us. Fear is trying to protect us from danger. It may be unrealistic, but that's the operation. If we can see it as that, oh, thank you very much, I can feel that fear, when I have to give a public talk or something like that. But it's a little misguided, but thank you, you're trying to protect me. And if it's wanting or lust that's up, the softening perspective is that it's trying to bring you something that you need or some comfort. That's all. It's survival oriented, very natural. And so it's not like we're bad or anything, it's just our survival stuff is happening. And we can honor it. Thank you. I really appreciate you wanting me to have connection with this object of my lust, this computer or person or whatever. But I also know a little more. If it's restlessness and worry, the softening perspective is that our organism is thinking and trying to plan for all the possibilities that will, keep us safe and keep us going and have us survive forever. So we plan and we plan and we worry and we worry. It's really the organism loving itself. But we also are wise enough to know if we don't do something with that, it'll wear us out and make us sick. And if sloth and torpor has arisen, this sleepiness, this kind of malaise, it may be our organism trying to protect us from having to feel something that's difficult. I appreciate that, but I know for my own health and growth, I'm going to have to turn toward that difficult emotion and feel it fully. I know that. But thank you very much for trying to protect me, for having me here in bed in the fetal position today. But I know a little better. And if doubt has arisen, in the softer context, that doubt is really just, it's our organism feeling that it's better to paralyze the whole system than to do something stupid. So it just kind of fills us so much with doubt that we don't even try, we don't even do anything, we're just paralyzed. But it's trying to protect us from making a wrong decision. So this acronym RAIN, we first accept what's going on. We first recognize what's going on, and receive it with this understanding. Okay, these are challenging energies, but they're trying to help me. They're not the enemy. You don't need to be stamped out, rooted out. We don't have to set up a war with them. We can honor them, thank them, and move on from them. So the A is accepting whatever is up. That this is just the weather pattern for today. Okay, I'm angry or I'm fearful or whatever it is. This is coming through. And then the I is we investigate it, we get interested in it, we become intimate with it. We explore it. We watch it. And the most important thing that we can watch with these energies, because they are impermanent, is that, oh, here it is. Now I'm fearful. Wow, this is what fear feels like. Oh, my heart, my pulse, etc. And oh, now it's dissipating. It's not here all the time. It's not permanent. It's not who I am. It just happened. It was a phenomenon. So as we get intimate with it, we really start to see and feel impermanence, that that's the core of all of nature. And that's a cornerstone of our meditation practice, is watching things arise and pass, internally and externally. And then the N, that's non-identification or non-ownership of what's going on. It's kind of a growing understanding that, well, this is the selfless nature of phenomena. These things happen, they come and they go. And some are pleasant and some are really unpleasant. And none of them are permanent forever. We can't just hold on to the pleasant and make it last, because nature isn't set up like that. People come and go, everything comes and goes. So this razor's edge of practice is, can we fully experience whatever it is? Feel it fully in our body, but not be identified, not be lost in it. That's our challenge, and we keep falling one way or the other, but keep picking ourselves up, keep practicing, feeling our way through. So tonight I touched into these challenging energies a little bit. These energies that cover over that luminous, radiant heart-mind that's there all the time. They're not who we are. And they're actually our misguided lovers and allies that want to protect us, take care of us, get things right, or help us avoid difficult things. So, in a sense, we can honor them and then move beyond. And that's what our practice is about, and that's I would think that's the call for our species. If we're going to keep operating out of these survival energies, we know where we've gotten to. More than 100 million people killed in wars of the last century. And now what we're doing to the environment. So this simple practice that you do of bringing your attention back, and one way we can look at it, it's the key to our species' survival and all the other species that we kind of hold in our power. So I've gone over time. Thank you for your listening, and have a good week.